Good evening, everyone. It's great to see you. I'm thrilled that we have a great crowd. We weren't sure what kind of a crowd we would get tonight for an informational session about math on the, I think, 18th rainy day of September, but it's terrific that you're all here. My name's Mary Jo Yannick, and I'm the new Assistant Superintendent for the district. And part of my responsibility is overseeing the curricular program for the district. So I'll be introducing our guest speakers and doing a little bit of an overview at the start. I just want to share with you our agenda for tonight is pretty straightforward. I hope, I'm going to move aside. I hope that this evening will be informative for you, that it will give you a chance to ask and have your questions answered, and that it'll leave you feeling better informed and excited about our new math program. So I'll be giving a little bit of a program selection process overview. We have two representatives from Pearson who are the hosts for the Envision 2.0 program, Donna Bisogna and Kelly Cunningham, who are here to share information about the program with you. And then we'll have a question and answer session at the end. I did place index cards at the table, as well as a two-sided sheet, which it appears most of you have, that outlines the at-home supports. But before we begin, I just want to thank Dr. Hacker, first of all, for hiring me, and second of all, for being here tonight.
So you better do well.
That's right. There's no pressure at all.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming. We greatly appreciate it and hope you'll find the evening to be as informative as Dr. Yannick described it to be. Thanks.
I also want to mention that we have members of our teaching staff here up front, so that when it comes to the question and answer session and you really want to get down to what's happening in the classroom, they're here hopefully to answer your questions, as well as our administrators are here. Kathy Van Goren here from Enfield. Dr. McLaurin's here from the high school. Not quite doctor, almost doctor, Mr. McLaurin. And Zach Fuller. Not quite almost Dr. Fuller from the middle school, as well as Lauren Davis, who's done a tremendous job getting us up and running from a technology standpoint with Envision, and Damian Johnson, our Director of Special Education, is here as well. So hopefully we're hoping that among the group of us we can answer your questions. Okay. So there are a lot of you here, so I wasn't going to read this quote, I was going to ask you to read it. But just so you understand a little bit about our philosophy around math instruction, this is a quote from the Mathematician's Lament. When I was moving from high school principal, which is what I did for the last 15 years, into this new role in curriculum, my math department chair in my old high school gave me two books to read. He gave me a book called Mathematical Mindsets, which one of our instructional coaches, who's here tonight, Aaron Dorm, is reading right now, and he gave me The Mathematician's Lament, which really he felt would encapsulate for me how math teachers feel about professional development and math instruction all the time, because I was an English teacher by trade prior to being a building administrator. So this is what we really are feeling about engagement in the classroom. I'll read it for those of you in the back who can't quite see. Mathematics is about problems, and problems must be made the focus of a student's mathematical life. Painful and creatively frustrating as it may be, students and their teachers should at all times be engaged in the process, having ideas, not having ideas, discovering patterns, making conjectures, constructing examples and counterexamples, devising arguments, and critiquing each other's work. Our vision for engagement in the math classroom is that the students are constantly engaged in the process of problem solving, constantly engaged in revising their ideas and challenging each other's ideas, and in arriving at creative and interesting conclusions and ways to solve the problems in the program. The other thing I want you to know about our philosophy, tonight we're presenting information about the Envision Math 2.0 program, but part of the reason why I'm thrilled that so many of you are here is because any academic program has three really core components, and I think of them as a three-legged stool, and the seat of the stool is the student. So the three legs holding up that student is the program that we purchase, and in this case that's Envision 2.0. That's the faculty who are trained and committed to making sure that our children learn. And that third really important leg of the stool is you, and the work you can do at home to help your children feel success as they study mathematics. So I'm really excited that you're here. I want to tell you very briefly about why we selected a new program. We did feel that math achievement in the district was falling short of our goals. One of the things that we've had the advantage this year is taking a look at longitudinal mathematics performance data across all grades K-12. And we really felt in the last few years, and full disclosure, I've been with the district now for just under 3 months, so I didn't actually participate in this process. But in speaking with teachers, instructional coaches, administrators, and students in the last few weeks as I visited classrooms, we wanted a more robust program. The spiraling everyday math curriculum was having some difficulty in helping students to create foundational, conceptual understanding of core math concepts. So we wanted to look at new programming to address those needs. And then we had the Common Core standards not being fully aligned to our everyday math program. One of the requirements in the state of Pennsylvania is that all schools must align their curriculum to the Common Core. And so we wanted to look at a program that would meet that need for us. So that's why we looked at a new curriculum. Our goals in looking at new curriculum were to raise math achievement, move aside so you guys can see, to provide family resources at home. In this day and age, there should be ample availability of online resources for families. We wanted to offer our faculty extensive training so that they could get up to speed early on the program and then really hone their understanding over the course of that first year. And then we wanted to provide access to more resources for students at either end of the academic spectrum. So we wanted to be able to help children who were both struggling with the program and who needed an enrichment and extension. We had a very extensive review process. When I came into the district, I didn't know what the review process was, but it was considerably broad and deep. There were 17 teachers and administrators who over the last year participated in monthly meetings where they were reviewing curriculum, having discussions about what our students were doing, where the gaps were in their understanding, and what we could do to move forward with math achievement in the district. They looked at program goals and they created a rubric for program review. There was actually a rubric that is about 29 items deep. But in summary, they looked at problem-solving skills and conceptual understanding. They looked at whether or not a program had cross-curricular connections. They looked at alignment to the Common Core, as I just mentioned. Cultural sensitivity in the problems that were being presented. Did we see a diversity of our faces as we do in our community? They looked at varied assessments, making sure that there was ongoing review and feedback in the program we would select. They wanted to make sure that we had interactive and engaging online resources. And they wanted to make sure that there was extensive reinforcement of core concepts, again, to support learners at all ends of the spectrum. So the review process, in addition to those meetings, was to conduct a great deal of research and evaluation of leading programs. The committee surveyed neighboring districts for their programs. They compared those neighboring districts' math achievement scores. They also made site visits to several neighboring districts for programs in which they became interested, and they actually had several Skype visits in order to reinforce their understandings of programs that were being delivered in those neighboring districts. We had multiple publisher presentations as we got down to a top 5, and then we individually scored those top 5 on that 29-point evaluation rubric. Ultimately, Envision Math 2.0 had the highest rating overall and the highest scores overall for the members of the committee. So the final selection and adoption occurred last spring. The administrative team did a final review of all the programs, looking very closely at Envision 2.0. There was a presentation to the Academic Affairs Committee to make sure that our Board of School Directors were on board with our selection. The board approved the program last May, and then we began professional development for the staff. So the professional development occurred beginning in June. There was a full-day program for K-8 teachers who were going to be delivering Envision 2.0. And then that was followed up in August by another full day. And we have a day scheduled in November, the purpose of which is to give teachers, after 3 months of instruction, the opportunity to go back to our Pearson representatives and ask more in-depth questions about that. We also wanted to make sure we had ongoing access to teacher resources, and so there are websites and resources available for our teachers as they continue to build their classroom program. And finally, we're in the final stages of hiring our new instructional coach. We have an instructional coach who's leaving us later this fall, and we've decided that the focus of the new instructional coach will be math instruction in the district, because that is an area we've identified of need. And so our new coach will be somebody who is experienced in instructional coaching to help classroom teachers be effective. It will be somebody who is committed to making sure that our implementation of Envision 2.0 is successful. Something I mentioned at the very beginning that I just want to return back to before I turn things over to the Pearson representatives, and that is that at the beginning of the night there's a table over there that has index cards on them. I'm very mindful of the fact that a lot of you are elementary parents, and so my sister is the mother of 6 children between 3 and 13. She tells me all the time that when she comes to meetings like this, people don't pay attention to the fact that you have children to put to bed. So I'm mindful of the fact that we would like to try to get to your questions in a timely fashion, but be efficient in answering those questions. So what I'm going to ask is, if questions arise over the course of these presentations, if you would just jot down that question, and then we'll have teachers and administrators come and pick those up from you. They'll organize the questions and make sure we get them to people who can answer them for you in the most efficient way possible, so we can try to get you home in time for bedtime. Not your bedtime, but their bedtime. Okay? All right. So I'm going to introduce Donna, who's going to take over, and she'll be presenting Envision 2.0.
Well, welcome everyone. Oh, we're up and running. So as I was introduced, I am Donna, and I'm going to go through the program, and hopefully you'll understand what it's about. So tonight's focus is the program goal, what the program's going to be about, what happens at school, how to help your child at home. So we'll see some of the ways to help your children at home. Sorry. And I'd like to read this quote from Piaget, because it is part of the philosophy of the Envision program. Each time one prematurely teaches a child something he could have discovered for himself, that child is kept from inventing it and consequently from understanding it completely. So that's kind of the philosophy of the Envision program, is to make a child not only understand the process behind the mathematics, but the content, the conceptual understanding, as well as the procedural understanding. There are 3 aspects of rigor in the major work of each grade. Conceptual understanding, that's to understand what is happening with the mathematics and being able to apply what's happening with that mathematics. The procedural skill and fluency, to fluently be able to apply what they have learned and to be able to take that knowledge and apply it in real life situations. And application, and that is when, as I just said, you take what you have learned and you're able to apply it into real world situations. So what happens at school? First of all, there is the Mathematics Practice Handbook, and the Mathematics Practice go from K through 12, and they are 8 practices that mathematicians feel when the students understand how to do these 8 mathematical practices, that they will be successful in higher mathematics as well as in problem solving throughout their lifetime. So embedded in the Envision program is actually a math practice handbook that is in your child's student book, and as well as in the teacher's handbook, that allows them to understand what the mathematical practices are and how they are embedded and ingrained within the program itself. There is a topic introduction, and there's an essential question that is given to every single topic for your children. And that essential question allows the student to know what they're going to be learning throughout that particular topic, where it's going to take them, and how they're going to be able to apply the skill that they're learning. As you know, and you probably have heard it from your students and your children, they say, "What am I ever going to do with this?" So the essential question allows them to understand why they're doing this mathematics and what they're going to be able to do with it. There is a section in opening in both the K-5 and the 6-8, and it's called a Review What You Know. So before the teacher gets into the actual lesson itself, there is a capability of reviewing what your child already knows, the prerequisite skills that they need to go into what they're going to be learning. If they find that there may be a skill that they need more work on, the teacher can take that information and help your child get to where they're supposed to be to learn the skill that is within that topic. There is a vocabulary section, and vocabulary is very important in mathematics. And not only is it embedded within the program, there are My Word cards, which your students have embedded in their textbook, and it will give them the vocabulary, the definition, and it also gives them the ability to kind of fill it in their understanding of what that vocabulary word means. There is a 3-step lesson plan: the problem-based solving, which is called the Solve and Share, the visual learning, which is called the visual learning animation and plus, and then there's the assess and differentiate. So it is a 3-step program that allows the teachers to go from problem-based learning, visual learning, and assessing, and then differentiate the instruction according to what your child may need. This is the 6-8, which is also a 3-step program, but their problem-based learning has 3 different sections to it, and that is the solve and discuss it, explore it, and explain it. So what is a solve and share? What is a problem-based learning? This is when your child is given the opportunity to work with manipulatives, to engage in hands-on activities, allowing them to understand in their way where their teacher is going to take them to teach the skill that they're going to be engaged in. They can do it in many different ways. They can do it, it's embedded in the student's book, it's embedded in the teacher's edition, it's also capable of being shown on a device, animated. And this is what it looks like animated. So it can be read to your child. After it's read to your child, they have a palette that they can work with. And the teacher can also do that as they're doing it up here. It has a capability of writing. It has manipulatives that they can use. It has a text box that they can actually type their answers in. And it can be moved to wherever it needs to go. So that's the solve and share. That is when they get involved in what is going to be going on in the next step, which is the visual animation. The visual learning takes place in the second step, and there's a visual learning bridge that shows the student what it looks like visually and what they're going to encounter in the next visual learning section. The visual learning bridge can be done this way and can also be done animated. And as they're going through the visual learning and understanding the skill that they're addressing, they have to then take a little section and it says, convince me. So I just explained something to you. Now I want you to convince me. Do you understand what I just said to you? So it's kind of a check for the teacher. I'm not moving on till you can convince me that you understood what I had just said. And this is what it looks like in animation. So the teacher has a choice of doing it in print, animation, or both. Oops. Sorry.
How can you use tools to add fractions? 10 canoeing teams are racing downriver. 5 teams have silver canoes, and 2 teams have brown canoes. What fraction of the canoes are either silver or brown?
Or is a very important word in that last sentence.
What information are you given in this problem? 5 out of 10 canoes are silver, and 2 out of 10 canoes are brown. What operation will you use to solve the problem? Why? You will use addition to solve the problem because you need to combine the parts of the canoes that are each color. You can use tools such as fraction strips to add 2 or more fractions. Find 5/10 plus 2/10. Use 5 1/10 fraction strips to show 5/10 and 2 1/10 strips to show 2/10. In 5/10, what does the numerator represent? The numerator of 5/10 represents 5 silver canoes. 5 1/10 strips joined with 2 1/10 strips are 7 1/10 strips. What do 5/10 and 2/10 have in common? 5/10 and 2/10 have a like denominator, 10. Add the numerators. Then write the sum.
Okay, I'm not going to go through the whole lesson because we're not learning denominators now. But I let it run for a little while, and I hope you noticed, I should have pointed it out to you before to look for. It is color-coded. It has a lot of visualization. It highlights what they're talking about. It allows the students to visually see what they're learning and what they're seeing in their book as in print. The next section is your practice and your assessment. And these are just simple samples of grade K and grade 3. There is also 6, 8. And they are giving the students the ability to practice what the teacher has just gone over with them. There is guided practice, and then there's independent practice. There's problem-solving section to it. And this is when the teacher has the opportunity to assess what the students are doing and then afford them differentiation. So once they have assessed the students, they can then give them differentiation in different groups, depending on how they have done with their assessment and with their practice. Which leads to the differentiated activities. There are many differentiated activities that the students do, and it changes with every topic. So it keeps the students interested in it, because it's not just, okay, I'm going to have to practice this again. There's activities, there's math and science, there's games, there's technology centers. There are both print games and there are both online video games that assess all of the skills and help them. There's the adaptive practice that allows the students to have a study guide, an individual study guide. And these are just examples of some of the few. In 6-8, it's called the Differentiated Instruction and Intervention Library. And they have all of these different differentiations: reteaching, enrichment, additional vocabulary, math tools, literacy, STEM activities, and so on. So embedded in the Envision program is a wealth of differentiation. And as parents and as teachers, we know that everyone learns differently, so the differentiation is a huge part of the Envision program. I mentioned this a few seconds ago. This is the adaptive homework and practice. It's in both K through 8, and it is a program that allows your student to work individually and to get an individualized study plan, so that as they are working, they can become more skillful if they need to, or if they're already skillful, it will give them some enrichment to keep them occupied and happy. There are also another look videos, there's visual learning animations, there is a math diagnosis and intervention kit that's available for your student. So what happens at the end of the topic? At the end of the topic, they have fluency practice activities, which shows if they are fluent. And it's embedded in all of the program, K through 5. They have a vocabulary review at the end of each topic to make sure they're understanding the mathematical vocabulary they've just been introduced to. They have a topic assessment that they can take to see have they understood what that particular topic was and have they understood all of it. There is a performance assessment. So what is the difference? There's a topic assessment and a performance assessment. A topic assessment is probably every assessment that you've taken in school. A performance assessment is when the student is actually asked to perform a task to show that they can take all of the different skills, put it together, and complete a mathematical task. They can also take their assessments, not only their topic assessments, but many of their assessments online. So how can I help my student at home or my child at home? And I don't know if you can see this here, but there's a dad helping their little child, and it says, "Don't be embarrassed, Dad, to ask help." There's a parent letter that's called a homeschool connection, that if your teachers decide to send it home, please look for it. It explains to you what's going on in the topic. It also will give you some little activities that you can work with your child at home. There is a homework section that is embedded in your child's book, so they will be able to, you will be able to help them with their homework. There's another look video that's online, so that you can go online under your student's account and look at another look video if you need some support on what that particular skill is. There's also personalized practice. You have your guided, your independent, you have your auto-scored assessments, you have what is called Math Excel in 6-8, and you also have Practice Buddy in grades 3-5. What it has is, as a student goes on to the question and they're not understanding what that may be, they can go to a Help Me Solve It. The Help Me Solve It will give them a little clue as to, okay, maybe this is what you need to do. If that is not sufficient enough, they have a view and example, and they will see a step-by-step-by-step example of what that is and how to do it, and then they'll be able to get an example that they'll complete. They can have another look video that they can look at. There's also animations that will help them. They have a glossary that is both auditory and visual if they need to know what a particular vocabulary word is. There are tutorial videos called The Virtual Nerd. They're excellent videos. It is actually a teacher teaching. The teacher is teaching. There's also a diagram that they'll be seeing, and there's what they call a step out. They can step out of it if they need a particular thing explained, and then step right back into that video to finish seeing what the tutorial is. There is a bounce page. It is called the Pearson Bounce app. And what it is put on your phone. There are particular pages in the Students Edition. Put it over the page. It will animate that page, and the student can take the phone with them. Say you're going to a game with your other child and you want your other child to have that animation. You bounce it off of the page, it's in their phone, and it's animated. It speaks to them. So what does your students see when they log in? This is what the screen would look for. So when you log in on that computer, look for this screen. This is the Pearson Realize platform. You will see their programs, their classes. You will also see their grades. This is what it looks like in thumbnail view. There's also a list view that looks like a list. It will have all of the math practices that we were speaking about in animation. It will have all the topics that they'll have in their particular grade level. Under their topics, they will have all of the individual lessons that they'll be getting into. And under the lesson support, this is actually a lesson open. They will see the problem-based learning. They will see the visual learning to some degree. They will see the assess and differentiate. They have a lot of different tools. There is the Game Center, and they are able to access games from K to 5, all of the games. They're just not just their grade level. There is a glossary that they can get to, which is both auditory and visual. They have math tools. These are virtual math tools that they could work with. Counters, graphs, blocks, thank you. There are many, many. There are fractions, place value, money, and so on, number charts. So there are virtual animations that they can actually see and work with. This is what you can look for under their grade section. It will tell you their average score on what they were taking. These bars are breaking down whatever it was. Is it a lesson quiz? Is it a topic quiz? And it will allow you to see what they have done. And it will also let you know what their progress is. Have they completed? Are they in the process of completing it? Or have they not started it at all?
Work on tablets.
Yes. This is when you look under their grades and you look into their item analysis, you will see what your child needs work on, and they will be assigned that remediation so that you can help them at home if you choose to work on what they may or may not need. This is what the site will look like, where the student, the teacher sees how they are doing. If they didn't start it, their e-text, their tools, everything that they need is right here. Your child's teacher is seeing all of this in item analysis. They're seeing which problems they got correct, which problems they got incorrect. And they can see what they're getting for remediation, and they're able to help your child deal with the skills that they may need help with. And that's what Envision is all about.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I want to be respectful of each person's time. If right now you have the information you wanted and you want to quietly leave because you're not interested in question and answer, you could do that now. The principals are going to help collect up your index cards. If you have any specific questions for the program, and then we're going to try to get those answered. If you need a copy of the at-home supports, because we ran out, I made 200 copies and we ran out, that's outstanding. We have some non-color copies.
Sorry. So everybody won't raise their hand, some people don't get on, and then if you don't answer questions, you get to the time, and you don't tell you.
Yes, I'm going to say that as soon as we come back to As people are stepping up, if I can just get your attention for a moment. Okay. Maybe I'll send an email tomorrow. When you got it. If you're standing and you want to sit, it looks like there's seats now if you want seats. Principals, do you have your cards? All right. Okay, so let me continue and get us started with question and answer. I think the principals have cards. So they're like a bullpen right now. They're going to figure out, who's going to answer what, who can answer which questions. While they're doing that, just a couple of additional pieces of information I wanted you to have. One, this presentation is being videotaped and will be available on the district webpage, the homepage, tomorrow. So you'll be able to access that if you want to go back into the slides. If after tonight we'll get to a point where we feel like we've answered the questions that you have, but maybe you still have something that's nagging at you, please feel free over the next couple of days, email the building principal, email me. We're happy to answer those questions for you. And I do want to make mention, there was some question about assessment, and I do want you to know we had a pre-assessment for all students in the district. Lauren Davis took care of, yes, I get her, Lauren_Davis at SDST.org. Lauren's done a really good job of taking all of that information, providing our teachers preliminary reports. Those pre-assessments, tomorrow, they're getting them tomorrow. Those pre-assessments were based on what would have been your child's standards in the prior year. So the thought was that we would find out whether or not they were where they were supposed to be in September of the current school year based on that pre-assessment. That information is going to be utilized by the teachers as they continue to plan instruction and refine their instruction. In addition to that, many of your children, in fact, I was in a several third grade classrooms just the other day. Many of your children have taken their first topic assessment. We understand that some of our students, many of our students, are finding the new program challenging. And I'm going to refer you back to my original quote. We want them to struggle. We want them to be problem solving. We want them to grapple with it and discover the answers. I was so impressed with your children. I was in a set of kindergarten classrooms and a set of third grade classrooms. And what I saw in their problem solving, their enthusiasm, their willingness to get up and take a shot at the right answer, and their ability to help each other was really, really impressive for me as a new administrator in the district. So you have great kids, and they really seem to be working hard. All right, so Mike, the bullpen over there, how are we doing?
I have a small question.
A small question?
how you just said when you looked at the kindergartners and you looked at the third graders and the teachers interacting, are the teachers interacting and correcting this homework visually on the screen? Is that what's going on? Are they looking at what's given to them and then it's presented on the screen, like, you know, how they were able to move products over, they were able to write on the board? Is that how the teacher's explaining the things in class when they go over the homework assignment?
I can tell you I did not observe a teacher going over a homework assignment. What I observed was the visible learning and the group work and the differentiated instruction piece of the lesson. So I sat with kindergartners who were struggling through problem solving, and they were explaining, I was asking them questions about how are you figuring that out? What are you thinking about when you make those decisions? So that's the piece I was part of, teachers. The question for people in the back, the question was, help me if I'm answering this.
Is it more visual as it was today for us on the screen, or is it more like what you just said, interaction verbally?
Okay.
Is what it is.
Jill, you want to stand up? So
Really,
because there's a lot
sure.
of people out there.
Hi, I'm Jill. I teach 4th grade. So I think it varies day to day. Other teachers can chime in, but like for example, last night's homework was a lot of addition and subtraction. And so when I checked the homework, I noticed that a lot of kids were having trouble with the subtraction with zeros in it. So then I kind of retaught that. It was almost across the board. So I kind of retaught that, like you're saying, on the board with everybody. But then sometimes it's like, oh, this group has it, this group needs some reteaching. So then in the differentiated part, step 3 of the lesson, you're kind of going over that with that group. So usually, for me at least, I'm not really going over all of the homework with all of the class on the board because it's not really needed.
Okay, so Lauren, who I keep praising, is going to attempt a number of the questions.
I have a couple.
A number of the questions have to do with online access. So Lauren's going to attempt to answer, and maybe Kelly, you can help, but Lauren can't answer.
So most of these questions are about how you get access to the online materials. So it's not a separate parent login. The kids are logging in through their account. So if they go onto their Gmail at home, there's most kids call it the waffle. There's like 9 little squares up in the right-hand corner. So if you tell them, go to your waffle, they will click on the waffle. Pearson will appear there, or you may have to hit more, and then it will come up. Right? Yes, is that what's happening with you?
Just walk you through it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Colin's so smart. Hold on. So once if the child's logged into their email and they go to their waffle, then Pearson appears there. For some kids, it's going to be down a little further.
We go back to like how they log into their
Sure. Hold on. Yeah. So students, it's a great question.
Sorry.
Students in grades 2 through 8,
Okay.
know how to do this. Okay?
You sure?
Most of them. Kids in K and 1 didn't have Google accounts. So when we tried to get them into the Pearson product 3 weeks ago, we couldn't get them in because they needed Google accounts created for them. So our technology department has been working hard to try to get Google accounts created for all of our kindergartners and first graders that have passwords that they can actually remember. You with me? Because the kids in 2 through 8 they have to remember their username
To get into their Chromebook.
right? If there's a username with numbers and letters that don't make any sense, at SDSTU.SDST. There's a whole bunch of letters.
Lunch account number.
There you go.
Oh.
So for kindergartners and first graders who have not yet memorized that because they don't buy lunch, we needed some time. So we're making their accounts, we're creating passwords that we think that they can remember. You will get access to all of that. They're not spending time on the computer yet, right, Ms. Van Voren? So you're not missing anything because the teachers don't have children spending time on the computer learning this yet, okay? So I don't think that you're at a loss. Would you agree? Anything to add?
No, the only thing that the primary students, they're just now being exposed to some of the games that are online, and the teachers are using that in centers in the classroom, but it's just starting.
I can show you.
Oh, yeah, Colin, please.
So, Colin, I teach 5th grade. If you go to the district's homepage and you hover over resources, you can go down to students, and you click students. Underneath your building, so if your child's in Enfield, they have access. It's called Pearson Easy Bridge Plus. If your student clicks on that link in Enfield once they get their account, okay, or in Erdenehim because they already have their account, you click on that link and it will bring your child up to a screen. Now, Mary Jo, whose account this is logged into, is already logged in. But it will ask her, if we sign out, let's see. Control Shift.
Yeah, okay. I'll change my password too.
I won't.
If you want to do my work, I'll do the best.
Yeah. So if you go in here, Pearson Easy Bridge Plus, see if it's logging her in automatically. That's where you will have your child enter their username and password. The Google login. If you say Google login, your kids will know it's 000, your child's lunch number, 4 digits, STU at SDST.org. I actually have these instructions, and we'll share it.
Yeah, well, what I think I'd like to do, if it's okay with you guys, is we'll answer as many questions as we can tonight. We'll take the index cards, we'll create an FAQ sheet, we'll put it right beside the presentation on the main page. Just give us the weekend. I'm not saying that'll be up tomorrow. Okay? Monday, we'll put it up by Monday.
Yeah, so once you enter your student's username and password, they'll be able to enter their screen and they'll see my work and they'll see assignments or other activities that they can do. So my work is where they'll find the things that the teacher has assigned. If they've assigned a homework or a practice, it'll be under my work for them. It'll be right there. A lot of the teachers have already started using that, and so the students are getting familiar with that in class, and they're able to know what that looks like. So that the students are engaged with that online in the classroom, and they should be able to access that at home.
Do they stay automatically logged in, which would make them not remember their password?
Once it's up to you if you save it in the browser to save their password.
Who do we contact if that happens?
You could probably contact.
Are you talking about at home or are you talking about here?
Well,
Building
anywhere, because when they log on to the...
If they don't know their password,
I would start with the classroom teacher.
Okay.
classroom teacher.
Start with the classroom teacher, and then we can figure out.
Typically, the password is the grade. So typically, the password is grade. So all 5th grade students' password is 5th grade with a capital G, 5th grade with a capital G, and that's their password. So that's typically where they start.
I have the same question.
Yeah. Say that again.
I've tried that and
It's a school account. It's managed by Google, but it's a school account. It's not a Gmail, which is where you would see that, right, like don't make the account. It's an SDST domain that's managed by Google. So they can't email out, they can't accept, it doesn't accept emails, there's all sorts of regulations on it. You're not, no.
They just know it is.
It's my school account.
Okay. Okay.
Can we get some other questions?
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
So I have one card with 4 questions on it, so I'm going to pick a couple out of this and a couple out of this.
I'm sorry, before you start.
Sure.
Just to reiterate, so if your question was about accessing and you didn't get the answer you were hoping for, or if you're unclear, we will get that up and answer up on the FAQ, because you've given us the question, okay? All right.
This is a question about how, hi, I'm Zach Fuller, I'm the middle school principal. And this is a question about how does Envision set up the children for high school math? And so the answer is that we own Envision K through 8, and we use Envision K through 8 as our grade level math program. And we accelerate students, and once students reach the end of Envision 8, they are prepared for algebra when they reach the high school in grade 9. Students who are coming in accelerated in math still go to algebra in grade 7 and geometry in grade 8. We're looking at chutes and ladders to get kids from 7th grade math into algebra in grade 8. And so the answer is, it's very fluid, but we're looking at creating opportunities in 7, 8, and 9 for students to go from Envision to higher level math.
Piercing goes to 12 though. This
No,
program goes to
Envision
12,
goes
it
K
only
through
goes
8,
to 8.
and then we begin the math classes with names.
Okay,
Right?
Geometry, yeah.
Algebra, geometry, trigonometry.
Okay.
Will they have the opportunity to take the Keystones in 8th grade? The answer to that is yes. We're looking at, again, at a way to advance students. We take the Keystone primarily in 7th grade at the middle school. We're looking at ways to get students from 7th grade Envision into algebra if possible. If that happens when students are in 8th grade, they will take the Keystone.
Well, what about from 6th to algebra? Because that's where, 7th graders are taking algebra now.
Right.
Right. You go from...
You said from 7th to taking algebra in 8th.
Right. So we want to create a track to make that possible
It's another
for
track.
students for whom that's appropriate. We will also continue to accelerate 6th graders into 7th grade
You're
algebra.
going to try to keep the same path
Correct.
and have another path.
Correct.
Yes.
Is there an opportunity for higher math if the student is doing well? The answer is yes. There is an opportunity for higher math if the student is doing well in 6, 7, and 8 in the future. It's something that we're looking at. With one teacher in each class, how is differentiated teaching put into effect? All of our teachers district-wide have been trained in differentiated instruction, and they are very, very good at it. And I see it happen every day. Mostly that happens with small level groups or small heterogeneous groups in the classroom, so the teachers can target instruction and activities for small groups of kids, think stations in the classroom, right, rather than whole group instruction en masse to 25 children all at once. There's a question here about human interaction over screen time, right? Like if all of this is happening on the computer, I'm concerned about my kid and how much time my kid's spending on a screen. I have a 6th grader. I'm concerned about my kid and how much time she's spending on a screen. But I will say that there is a huge human interaction piece to this. I was in the 7th grade Envision class the other day, and the problem was projected on the screen, but the students were facing each other with their knees facing each other, 4 kids talking to each other about the problem. And there's a lot of collaborative work happening, so it's not kids zoned into the internet, like the Matrix with it plugged into the back of their heads to download the knowledge. They're very much talking to one another. Can a 5th grader access upper grade challenges and curriculum? Mac, I think that's you, Mr. Mack.
Repeat that again, please.
5th grade access upper grade and challenging curriculum. I know that we are going deep with 5th graders.
Yeah, so in 5th grade, what we're able to do is we're going to look at how the students perform on those different classroom assessments to be able to figure out exactly where they land. The goal would really be to figure out if students have demonstrated mastery of a particular content, then we're going to look to extend those students. To be completely honest, that's part of our journey right now. We're navigating how our students are responding to this new curriculum. Once we get a grasp consistently how our students are performing, that is then when we can use some of the Envision materials to be able to extend and enrich our students in their classrooms. The goal would be to be able to look at the kids' ranges of needs in the classroom and be able to target kids who can be extended, to extend those kids, for students who need reinforcement, to provide reinforcement. But the goal would be that for those students who demonstrate mastery of skills, mastery of skills, we want to be able to extend those students in their classroom with different opportunities to learn.
So on top of that, will they be able to access any enrichment type of materials outside the classroom, online tools, everything they mentioned?
They will. They'll be able to access that. And we also have a group of our 5th grade teachers working on looking at the standards for 5th grade, and then we're exposing all the students currently, this is happening in 5th grade, to project-based opportunities that connect to standards that extends their thinking further. So for students who demonstrate mastery of skills, we want to be able to expose that ability to show what they know by being able to solve long extension problems or projects that might last for the topic or maybe even the unit to really show their understanding of those skills.
Can I add to that? Students only have access online to the things that their teacher assigns to them. So if the question is, can your 5th grader log in and get to the 6th grade materials? Only if the teacher assigns it to them because they've determined that there's readiness. That's not just 5th to 6th. That would be any enrichment or extension or acceleration. It's dependent upon the teacher determining that your child is ready for that and then assigning it to them.
Does the same go for if they need remedial help?
Correct.
Okay.
So in an ideal world, you wouldn't have, let's say that you have a 3rd grader who needs some support or intervention. You wouldn't, when we are in this for a little while, you wouldn't want to go back to what they've already been exposed to necessarily, right? Because that didn't give them what they needed. You'd want to kind of do like something like this, right? If this is 2nd grade stuff, this is 3rd grade, I want to give them something a little different, expose them to something different. So in that instance, there is a whole intervention and remediation, I'm going to call it the black box.
That's
right?
it.
It's a black box of additional supplemental materials. So you would go there before you would go to a previous grade. We're in a unique position in that our, right now, 3rd graders have never seen the 2nd grade material. So this year we could do that, but my recommendation to the interventionist is to go into the black box first. Okay? There's also a whole bunch of extensions that exist already within this program, and so that's what we've been talking about in terms of extending.
So as far as a kindergartner goes, I realize that this is obviously a lot of at-home support for them. Have there been changes with what is sent home as far as workbooks, pages, and then through the years, is there a correlation with textbooks and things in school? Is this going to be aligned with this program so that it sort of matches up, or is it really just kind of a support for at-home for them?
Right here is going to be.
Hi, I'm Sharon Murphy. I teach 1st grade. K1, we do have a textbook, and the homework is embedded right into our quote textbook. It's really a workbook, and we just tear it out at night. Now that's what the 1st grade do. I can't really say what the kindergarten teachers do, but we just tear the homework right from the lesson. So the first page of the lesson is always that solve and share, where we try to have a hands-on. There's also a question, are there physical props or TGAs? In K1, we use manipulatives all the time. I'm sure you do as well. Erdenehim does as well. So the first page is solve and share, and then the next page is kind of the visual learning, which can be online, but some teachers do both. We watch it online, and then we teach it, again, just for, teaching it in a different way so that everyone grasps the concept. And then there's a little part that's called Do You Understand? So we do that, and then there are 2 guided practice questions usually. And then the next 2 pages in the book are independent practice. So the teacher can walk around and help while your child is working. The teacher can take a group of kids who they know are having difficulty and work with them. And then the next page is the homework. And so we just tear that out. So your child may just be bringing home 1 paper. Does that answer your question?
I think it was more about the correlation between vision and what is actually sent home. Are they? So you are saying
it's like a colored page. It has like a border. Yes, that is right from the Envision workbook.
Okay, thank you.
The textbook also has the homework, also has the practice, also has the review for assessments.
Everything's in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you
So-
bring the textbook home?
The textbook is like this thick. In fact, my classroom, we call it the big fat text, the big fat math book. So, yeah, we're not bringing it home. We're just tearing out the page from homework.
So I'm gonna try to take 3 questions and combine them into one because they're all interconnected. So the first question was background on Envision 2.0 in other districts and how they're using it, and also mention about Springfield 2.0 not necessarily meeting our goals and what did that look like and why. Some other questions that kind of flow with that are how do we address the fact that the worksheets are heavily language-based, and for students who might be in Title I or near Tier 2 support for reading, and then just also that noticing of the grasp of the reading with the program that the students that you're seeing at home. One of the things that I want to share, and maybe I didn't share this earlier, the previous program that we were using at the elementary level, Everyday Math, was not connected to the current Common Core standards. And so what we saw was that our students weren't necessarily being exposed to the type of learning that they're expected to show through the state standards. And so it is more heavily language-based. It is more word problems. And for us with this new program, they will be exposed to it more regularly than what they have been in the past. What we have to do as a district is still within the third week of school is to see how our students respond and react to this program. But we did need to expose our students to those types of questions, that type of language, because that's what they're expected to be able to show at the state level. And I will share our data as it looks. Personally, I don't think it really is indicative of what our students can do. It was what our students were exposed to with our prior resource. And so now that we have a program that's exposing our students to the types of learning that we want them to see, it's going to be an adjustment, but they are expected to be able to do math with a heavy language component connected to it. They're expected to be able to explain their thinking, and we just weren't able to provide that through the previous resource that we had. And so it is going to be an adjustment for our students, but as we learn more about this program, that's when we want to be able to respond to that and be able to support our students. But we're excited about being able to provide them with the type of learning experience that they haven't had prior with our most recent program. Like changing math programs?
Does any this individual, are we Springfield the only?
No.
No.
Sorry, I can answer that. Hi, I'm Kelly. I work for Pearson Education, and I am your school district's Pearson representative. And that sounds fancy, but basically my role was to work with Springfield Township and help guide them through their curriculum review process. I also work with districts in Montgomery County, Chester, Delaware, and I think a part of Bucks. And throughout all those counties, there's about 12 users of this Envision 2.0 program, and then several more that use an earlier copyright. So it has a following, and it does have proven results. So we're proud of it, and we're excited that Springfield chose it. So, yeah.
Well, how long has it been in use?
This copyright is a 2017 copyright, which means we're in 2018. So this is about 2 years of this copyright, but there were versions before that other districts are using. So the pedagogy has been in place for a while. We just continue to add on to it and change as new things arise.
Megan?
Yeah. So I'm going to combine a couple as well. Couple questions about is the teacher going to be showing the animated video, or should we do it at home? If we don't use the online tools at home, will our child be behind? Or how, if there's multiple ways and we don't know how to help them, like what can we do? And so I think it's just important to remember that we're sending home homework. So your child has already been exposed to the information, and so if they really are struggling, we want you to communicate that with your teacher, okay? So it should not be a huge, laborious process. Just communicate with the classroom teacher, okay? And so the expectation is that, no, they don't have to, using the online video, it's there, or watching the online video or using the tools is there if you would like to, but they will also be exposed at school.
So for my fourth grader, that's fine, but my kindergartner who can't even read, I'm trying to guide her in this homework, and I'm having trouble actually understanding the instructions. I'm actually a pretty strong math nerd, so it's like a little humbling, but I don't even really know how to tell her. Sometimes it'll take me 10 minutes to figure out what we're doing. And so, I mean, do I just read her the instructions and assume that she knows what I'm talking about? I'm looking at you.
I'm Erin, I teach first grade. Have you had any luck with the note that's in the corner of something you can do with your child? Like, have you gotten a chance to try those? Do you have them with the kindergarten homework? We have them in first grade.
Yeah,
it is. It is. So it's like, so get some Legos. I know that you have done that. Get some Legos. Pull out 2, pull out 4. Like, it can go through it with you. I feel like that would be helpful
to you. She gets it once I figure out what to say to her.
I also feel like the very top of the homework. Yes. explain something in a fashion similar to how we've taught it at school. I don't know if that's been helpful to you. I'm thinking about the big large rectangle. Try those.
Okay.
I'm sorry to hear that, but talk to your kindergarten teachers too.
Manipulative intelligence, just the hands-on is a great opportunity to see the comparison. You might be working on comparison number problems, add to or add in. So maybe
It's just the way it's described.
Yeah.
It's a little different than what I'm used to. And she doesn't
Can I add something? Actually, can I add something real quick? There's also, I know that we briefly touched about this during our presentation, but there is an app that you can download called Bounce Pages, just one word. And if you hold it over that homework page, it'll scan and there'll be another look video that helps re-explain the lesson. So that might be a little challenging for your kindergartner, but it'll certainly help you then help her with the homework. So I'd also recommend checking that out. Thank you. Yeah.
So maybe just one thing I think Ms. Karen hit on is we learn math really different, and I'm assuming you're hearing this across the board, which is why I just wanted to kind of put it out there, but there's a lot of complexity to everything you introduced tonight, all probably because some researchers said this is a better way to do math. I'm sure you guys all vetted that, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
But how do you help bridge the gap to the way we learn math and what we're used to doing, like just drilling addition and subtraction, say, to what you're expecting them to do? Because I think there is a disconnect with what comes home and how we explain it. So just thematically, maybe other parents.
Can you bounce to the age you never worked?
And I think those are really good questions, and just like we've said, we're still new with this program, and so we've got to determine, and that's why it's helpful to hear from you guys, so we can come back to our buildings and say, hey, this is the feedback we're getting from the parents, how can we bridge this gap, and we can make some decisions at our school, and then send some communication out that way. But we understand, we hear you, we understand.
I think the other thing too, just from a historical standpoint, we brought in everyday math and connected math in like 2006, and we had the same problem, right? And it's because the language of math is different. And so the language of math that we learned is different than the language of math was in everyday math, and it's different now in Envision. And so that's now called academic vocabulary because you can't even call it math language anymore, right? So we have been having dialogue about the academic vocabulary shift and the need for kids to be exposed to that academic vocabulary shift. Because if we were calling it a math problem and now we're calling it an equation, the kids are like, what are you saying? Right? And so we know that we have to bridge that gap. And so we've talked about exposing kids to the glossary from the previous year. We've talked about word walls. We are aware that this is different and that some of the problems are worded in a way that you gotta read it twice before you understand what it is saying. The good news is that means that your kids are also gonna have to do that, right? So there's a precision there, there's a persistence that you want them to develop over time. It's new. It's new for us, it's new for them, it's new for you guys. It's gonna take us a little bit of time. The good news is we don't do this all that often, right? So you heard me say 2006. So we'll get there. It's just gonna take a little bit of time.
I got one more question that I want to answer, which is, how does this program, we will answer them all, I promise you. This is just the one I'm going to answer out loud right now. How does this program prevent learning for the test and then forgetting it? And when we say that this program is standards aligned, right, it does support the standards that are tested by our standardized tests. That's one important facet of this program. But what we like about them, but I don't care about that as much as I care about the fact that this program is based in asking kids to solve problems, sit down and look at each other and talk about this and grapple with this and be wrong and try again and keep trying. I'll say again, I was in the 7th grade math program, math class the other day, and a problem was put up on the board, and my really weak math brain said, -8, right? But I was completely wrong. Because the answer was, there are an infinite number of answers in both directions. And the students sat there, these 7th graders sat there and talked about this and said, well, yeah, that's right, it could be -8, but what if it's it's this possibility and that possibility. And they started to realize that all of these possibilities were correct. And what does that mean? And to me, that prevents learning for the test and promotes learning for conceptual understanding. I like that about Envision. I'm not trying to sell you Envision, right? I like that about any classroom that's based around a problem. Envision just is structured that way, which is something that I like. So that's my answer to that one. And then Mr. Max.
Okay. I'm going to take I'll try to combine questions so we can try to answer as many as possible. But there's this question about the program, is it all online? And how are we using other online resources to support students? So the entire program is not all online. It does come with online features that teachers can use and also access for students to have access to, but it is not all online. It really is teacher choice. It really is, I think, based off of what they're seeing in their classroom community in terms of what might work best. But it is an option that this program comes with, which is something that most programs that you see now will have as a feature. And we trust that our teachers would use it based off of what they feel is appropriate for their classrooms. Some other questions were about Extra Math and IXL, which are some online math programs that you might see your child working on at home. And a lot of those programs are supplemental. A lot of our teachers are using that as a resource where the students can go on and continue to work on their math fact fluency, or there's a skill that we want to kind of reinforce that they can work on independently. And so those are just some additional things that we do have access to as an online resource. But once again, there might be teachers using different resources, but they feel like whatever their choice is, it's an appropriate one to measure how students are performing with maybe their fact fluency or some other areas. But all of our math instruction is not an online component. I think our teachers do a really nice job at picking and choosing where online is appropriate and when hands-on is appropriate or when direct teaching is appropriate. I think all of our classrooms do a really good job at mixing those things up because our students now learn in so many different ways, and that's why this program offers multiple ways of learning through it.
Okay, I'm sorry, do you want to say?
To be sure, the traditional ways are not jettisoned from this program. In our teacher's manual, it encourages us to do songs in math and, kinesthetic math movements and, it rhymes with words and numbers and things. So that hasn't been thrown by the wayside. We have something called Math Anytime But Math Time, so you're doing different math routines throughout the day. During a transition time, you might sing a math song, or you might go back to part total or part whole, and those kinds of things. The traditional drills you can go through, or what we call fluency. That is a part. It's all into the whole math day. So it's like integrated throughout the day. So none of the old school stuff is really out of the window. It's just that this is our base, and it helps us to just infuse.
Okay, 7:45. We've tried to answer as many of these questions on the cards as we could. There are some questions that we're going to take back. We're going to create that FAQ, put that up along with the presentation. If you have additional questions or questions that we didn't answer, it's because we didn't have an answer for you right now, but we will get you an answer through that FAQ. I really appreciate your attendance. If you have an individual question, and we're here, the principals are here, the administrators are here, we're happy to stay back. But if it's time for you to go put your kids to bed, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.